Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and this is a continuation of my Power Virtual Agents videos that I'm doing. So as you remember, the last video was an introduction video, and I went through it, kind of even introduced Power Virtual Agents, and we did a kind of a introduction to the Power Virtuals, kind of a logic, and we even built one over there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now kind of step up on that. So if this is the first time you're watching this Power Virtual Agents video of mine, pause this one and go watch that one first, because that actually really introduces you to the whole how PVA works, where you go ahead and build your your first PVA, and then after you're done watching that, come back over here. All right, the link to that video is right below on this one. All right, so now that I've kind of already introduced Power Virtual Agents in the previous video, and you'll keep hearing me saying PVA because that's also Power Virtual Agents, I've already introduced over there in that one. In this one, we're going to actually talk a lot more about PVA, or Power Virtual Agents, with Power Automate, and building actually a flow over there. So let me actually give you a quick introduction on that, and then we'll jump straight into building the demo. So in Power Virtual Agents, like I already mentioned before, it was all about empowering the people to go ahead and actually build your own conversational AI. And in the last video, also, if you remember, I talked about the Power Platform family, right? It was it used to be Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate, but then Power Virtual Agents came in and became the latest member of the family. Now, you can go back into the previous video, and I've done a little bit more introduction on that, but I at least wanted to kind of start off with this little, introduction that now we've got PVA, or Power Virtual Agents, as the new member of the family. Now, in this one over here, I'm going to be focusing purely on these two, Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents, and you'll kind of understand why I'm doing that, because what the whole concept over here is, if you remember in the previous one, I've actually gone ahead and built everything into the PVA, the questions and the response and everything was all in the PVA. But now I'm going to go ahead and put the data on the common data services side. And on common data service, I've actually built an entity over there, and the data and all the answers are actually coming from there. The big reason for that is it makes it really easy for the end users to go ahead and update the information which the bot is referencing. And that really makes it easier, because then you don't have to go into the bot, into the logic over there. You don't have to do any work over there. That's already built, that's already running, but all the data fetching is only coming from the CDS entity types, and the intermediate is Power Automate over there. That's going to be the big focus for this demo over here. And then that way, just to give you a quick understanding, over here, I'm going to be basically focusing on sessions. A great place for this bot is to actually help an end user to just get all the sessions information for a conference or a summit or whatever it is, a SharePoint Saturday over there. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to go ahead and make a bot system where in the bot you can basically search and ask the bot questions based on the session name, or you can go ahead and ask the questions based on the speaker name, and it'll get all that information over there for you. The other thing is we'll go ahead and enhance that bot so that it'll even filter out past sessions. And I'll show you how we can go ahead and do all of that. All right. So now that you've got a good understanding of this, let's just jump in and start working on our bot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now get off this slide deck, and we're going to jump straight into our bot system over here. As you remember, this is the one that we built in the past video. We went and built the services. Remember, we talked about Power Apps 911, my favorite Power Platform consulting company, and we went and built this one where they were able to build a bot system which basically just answers those basic questions that they had, and these were the trigger ones over here. So that's the one that we did last time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new topic, and in this new topic, I'm going to go ahead and call that as sessions. So here it is, sessions. Let me go ahead and save the topic, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting in some trigger phases or phrases, basically trigger type of questions over there. All right, so that's important that we do that first before we go ahead and start authoring the canvas. So the couple of ones that I already thought of, I'm going to go ahead and start typing those in over here. In fact, I'm doing a little copy and paste. Questions which just immediately, the first thought that comes to your mind about these trigger questions or phrases, go ahead and put them over here, because that's literally what I'm doing. The first thought that comes to my mind, that's what I'm putting over here. So I already have a list ready. That's what I'm going to do. Is when I come over here, I says, hey, have any questions regarding the sessions? Have a question regarding the speakers? Also, same type of questions, but I'm putting them as separate triggers. Things such as have questions about the conference speakers. Same thing, have questions about the conference sessions. And all you have to do is put at least a try to give 5 to 10. So I always go on the extreme side. I'm at least trying to put in 10 over there. So yeah, that's basically all I'm doing. All right, and if you're following along this video of mine, go ahead and do the same thing what you're seeing me do over here. And you might already have these phrases that you have ahead of time. Go ahead and put those over here, or you can go ahead and type them, or you can do a lot of pausing and basically put the same stuff that I'm putting in over here. But whatever works for you, my advice would be at least to kind of either stay in that 5 to 10 range of these phrases, or if you're like me, then go ahead and put them in the max, which is more than 10 over here. What else? What I'm putting? I think I'm going to put in speakers. I'm going to put in sessions. I'm going to put in sessions covered, and I think that should be enough to start with. All right. I'm going to go ahead and click on save, and now we will also go in. Its topic is saved successfully. Good. Let's now go into the authoring of the canvas. Now, like I said before in the intro, I'm going to build this kind of like a two-step process. First one is it's just going to answer the basic questions, and it'll go ahead and go to the bot, run the Power Automate flow, get us the questions we need, and also come back over here. But in the other place, we'll kind of enhance that a little bit more. So I've already gone ahead and started building the bot thing, but one thing I didn't pay attention to is, I need to put in that data on the entity side. On the CDS entities from where it's going to fetch the data. So let's actually just keep this as it is and go work on that CDS entities over there. So what I did is I am going to go ahead and show you this Excel spreadsheet that I have. And what I did in this Excel spreadsheet is basically, and I'll show that to you, this is just something simple that I did for myself, and you'll see in a minute why it is. So this is basically some examples that I got. I spoke at a Power Platform Virtual Summit, which is in Atlanta, in USA. So I went ahead and took all this information from there, and I've combined it together, and that's why you got some of the information. Plus, I had to drop in Power Virtual Agents over there. But all this information all came from a conference, a legitimate conference, which actually happened over there. These are legitimate speakers that were over there. Obviously, you can see my name. Took things such as the room, went ahead and also took the date over there and the type over there. The date, I've intentionally put in these dates and times, even though the conference is over. But you will see, as I work through this, why I've done that over here. All right. So now, as you can see my data, I'm going to kind of take a break, and let me go into, let's just go somewhere else into Power Automate. Either way, I just want to go and hit on the entities. You don't have to do that. We need to go and start putting data into the entities side. So in fact, Power Apps would be a good one to go over there. Excuse me. Signing in. And just to make sure I'm all in the correct place. Yeah, I am. Okay, so I'm the default one over here. I'm going to come into entities, and in the entities I am going to now build a new entity, and I'm going to kind of give it the same name. So here I did sessions, so I'm going to give the entity name also the same. So I'm just going to call this a session. Yeah, we'll leave that as it is. Save, and then here are the fields that I'm going to do. I already have name, which is a session name, which is right here. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Next one, I'm going to call that speaker. That's good. Also, the next one I'm going to give it is room. Done. And I'll also put in date. Obviously, I need the date. I can put in the full date and time. And then the last one I had was type, which is, what session type is it? Is it a workshop, or is it just a breakout session? So this is all good. Yeah, I'm actually good in the information. Stay on this page. Everything over here is good. Session types are good. Let me close this one out. Save the entity. Entity is getting saved. And then after that, I'll show you a neat little trick, which is to edit data in Excel. Because now that I've gone ahead and built all the entities and the fields over there, I want to start putting in data. So this this is the little trick. That's why now you realize why I actually had that Excel spreadsheet created, because this is the way I'm going to kind of start dumping data in over here. And if this is the first time that you even notice it can be done, this is just a great way for you to get this, for me to introduce this way, is to start putting data in CDS entities in bulk. All right. So now I've got all this over here. It's the correct entity. I'm going to click on Edit Data in Excel. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just save it on my desktop. Save that. Opens up. I can open this up, and it'll open up in my Excel, a new Excel spreadsheet. So this is what it does. It first opens it this way, and it says, I'm going to say, yep, I'm going to enable editing. Usually the first time when it comes up over here, this is kind of like the add-in that comes in, and it may ask you to verify authentication, which is exactly what it did for me. So I'm going to open this up because I'm going to need that username and password. So I'm going to sign in, and this authentication pop-up window comes up, which is perfect. All right, so I'm going to click on that. That's the one. Actually, it's not. Let me double check. Yep, that's the one over here. Let me go and put in the password and sign in. Looks taking the authentication, and it's loading data. And so this connector is already built in. If you actually already had entered some data over there, it shows up on this table. I really love the way I can go ahead and do some bulk entries over here. So now let's start doing some copying and pasting. I'm going to literally do a lot of copying and pasting from here. Again, this is for me just to kind of show you that I've got some data in the CDS entities, and you can, side by side, do something similar, get your own data, and start filling it in information over here. Okay. All right. Next thing I got is I got date. So let me go ahead and grab the date. Grabbing the date, and mine has date and time. So did that. Rooms, I got rooms, putting that information over here. Speaker, putting that over here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 columns. Now, if you save this spreadsheet, it's only saving the spreadsheet and all the data locally on your machine. It hasn't gone ahead and published the data up over there. For that, you got to come into this little place over here. You got to hit publish, and that's what it's doing. It's publishing the data, and it says publish successful. Workbook updated. So now when I come back over here, it's the sessions. I click on data. As you can see, the data came through, and if I change the view to all fields, all of them is over here. So we've successfully got now data into my CDS entity type, and I'm going to start, leveraging Power Automate to get data in for the Power Virtual Agents. Did this make sense? Because I think I walked in very simple over here. We created the CDS in the entity over there, put in all the fields that we wanted, but then we used the Excel to put data there in bulk. So I'll kind of walk through that little story slowly so that you can understand that. Okay. Let me just go ahead and close things that I don't need right now so I don't get confused. Yeah, that's fine. Let me close that, and we'll keep this open as it is, just in case. Now let's go back to our virtual agents over here. Okay, so you remember we went ahead and just opened this up. We went and put the trigger phrases, and we came over here. So far nothing has happened much, but I'm going to start working on this. All right, so follow along. First thing I'm going to ask, just like I'm keeping the bot very informal. That's the whole process of filling the bot over there. So I'm going to say the bot is as if bot's telling me, says hi there. We'll make it a little nicer. It says hi there. Looks like you need some assistance to pick either a session or a speaker. I can help. All right. I'm just going and saving it over here. So next thing I'm going to ask is I'm going to ask a question. So I'm going to say ask a question. And then the next thing, when you notice, when you ask a question, a few things happen. First thing is the variable that shows up. So I personally, before I forget, assign an actual variable name over here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to say selection type. Right? That's the best variable name I could come up with right now. So that's what I did, selection type. And my question is, I'm just going to say pick one. Now intentionally just put that question as a pick one because I already went over here and I actually asked a question. So kind of play around with that. I put in a message. The message was kind of half the question, and then the question was just the remaining half. So kind of play around with the whole concept of message and question. You could potentially even put your question, this entire message over here, but there's a reason why I didn't do that, and you'll understand that at the end. All right. So again, this is going to be a multiple choice one. So I'm going to put one is I'm letting the user select based on a speaker. And I'm also letting the user select based on the session, because that's what I put up over here. Is I'm going to give two options. The person who's using the bot will say I'm going to search based on the speaker name, and I'm going to search based on the session name. Right. So we've got that over here, and now let's just continue working on this. So you scroll down. And so here, for this condition, I'm going to now ask another question. And I'm going to say something in effect. Okay, we also want to change the variable. Always remember to change the variable. Speaker. And so the first thing I ask is, okay, so this is for the speakers. So can you give me the speaker's first or last name? And the reason for this is because when we're doing the search using Power Automate, and you'll see on the Power Automate side, the search is so powerful over there. It really doesn't care to see if it's the first name, the first letter of the first name, or the last name. That's why I'm just saying that just give me something about the speaker, either the first name or the last name, and I'll go ahead and pick that up. Now, since I'm picking up a text over here, I'm going to change the identity from the multiple choices to the user's entire text. All right, and it's going to go ahead and pick that up. So I'm going to pause over here. Let's go ahead and actually even switch over, not switch over, but do the same for even this side, for the session side. So I'm going to ask a question and say, any sessions in particular you're interested in? Same thing, go ahead and change that to a user response, entire user response, and over here I'm going to call that as session variable. Done. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to pause over here for a minute. We're going to pause over here on the Power Virtual Agent side, because now we're going to switch over to the Power Automate side. All right. Okay, so on the Power Automate, we can keep that as it is. From here, I am going to now jump into, right click and go into the Power Automate. And on Power Automate, if you've realized, we're going to create two, one to search by the session name, and then one to search by the speaker name. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come to Power Automate over here, make sure that it is in the same environment of yours, and I'm going to go to Solutions, and in Solutions, I'm going to actually create a new solution. So because this was just called Events, I'm going to change this new one over here. I'm going to call that as Event. If you already had an event, you can just go ahead and use the existing one. I'm going to create this as a new event. So I'm going to create that, and I'm in here. Once I'm in here, you can do that. This is new, and in new, you can create a flow. Another neat, cool feature which actually just showed up, it wasn't even there in my previous video, is that when we go ahead and create the flows over here, I'll show you the option where now through the flows, through this action over here in Power Virtual Agent, you can directly go ahead and open up the flow over there. You won't have to come in and find your flow. It directly opens that. The feature is so new that it wasn't even there in my previous video. It actually showed up over here, but I'll show you that in a minute when it comes up. All right, so I'm right over here in new, clicking on flow, and over here I'm going to call that as Power, oopsies, switched over, Power Virtual Agent session name. And also, here's a cool thing that just come up now, is that the new triggers are there. Again, in the previous video, that trigger wasn't there, but now this is neat, because now I can come individually to Power Automate, create my my solution, go ahead and create the flow over there, and then call that into Power Virtual Agents. And it has its own trigger, and it has its own end as well. So here on the Power Virtual Agents, I'm going to click on that one, and in here I'm going to have one input. The input is going to be a text type, and I'm just going to say that as session. I'm going to make sure that this is actually a session that is received, session name that was received from Power Virtual Agent. So I'm just going to call that as session rec for received. You can put the whole thing in received. It's completely up to you. After that, I'm going to call a list of common data services, because I want to go ahead and get a list of all that CDS, that entity with all the sessions name. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go over here to common data services, and I'm going to go ahead and say I want to get a list of all the records from that entity. So that's why I'm selecting that. Come on. I just did. Click that. List records. All right, I took that. Good. So now here I can select entry, selecting an environment. I'm just going to use the current one. And then over here, we search for the one that we created. And it was called something as event. I just got events, double checking that. Sessions. It was actually called sessions. I'm glad I checked. Sessions. All right, go ahead and save that. Now in this case we're going to do some filtering, because what I want is I just want to get the session name that I've put in, that I've told the Power Virtual Agent. So that's why over here I directly want all the querying to happen right here when I'm pulling the records over there. This is very important when you do this kind of filtering, because then you're doing all the filtering on the CDS side, like we call the server side filtering. It's all happening on the CDS side, which means it's only going to pull in limited number of data. You want to do all the filtering directly this way, because you don't want to go ahead and call all the data and then do a filter or a condition. That's just going to be too much more load on the flow side or the Power Automate side. You want to do all the filtering over here. So that's why you just do the OData filtering query right there. And in that way, the filtering, the condition that I'm using is I'm calling it as contains. And in contains, I'm going to say, just get me the session name which matches, or which is, which contains the same text that the user has put in. And this is why I always go ahead and keep that CDS entity available, because I want to get that name. So what we did was our session name was just called as name. So it's right here, primary field, and that's what it is. Right, because if you come into the we actually go and see the data, the field name has all the names. So that's why I come over here, I find the name, the title, actually what it is. Oh, I even switched to, that's what happened. Let me get back into the entities, session name, and that's, I'm just going to copy that from here. You do the same, come back into the flow, and in contains you paste that in, comma, single quotes, not double quotes, a single quote, and you put in the session name, another quote, close it. Let's take a look at that. All right, all I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and do the contains. That's something that you type in. Make sure you go ahead and get that field name, copy that, comma, single quotes, get that trigger name from here, another single quote, and then close the brackets. Go ahead and save that. Next, we're going to go ahead and do initialize a variable. And so I just type that as variable. I'm going to initialize a variable, and this is important. And the initialize the variable, I'll just call that as sessions variable. I'm going to call that as a string. Make sure you select that. All right. Now here's an important step, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to now do a append. So back in the variable, in the variable, I'm going to do a append to string variable. Do append to string variable, and over here I'm going to call that sessions one, and in here just type in or select something. So the first one I'm going to start typing in is, I'm going to try to get three things. I'm going to get the session, what name of the session, what type of session is it, and then also the speaker name of the session. So at least start typing that in. Session here, just the text. I'm just typing in text. I put session colon, and then after that I'm going to go ahead and just get the name. Where are your name? Right here. And when you do that, it immediately goes ahead and does this for you. That is okay, because remember, we are doing a filter over here based on contains. So what's going to be neat is that Now, using this system with Power Automate and its flow, even if you give it a kind of a generic name that this is the session, I'm not sure if that title name contains this session, title name contains this text, you just put in a text, and that Automate's flow is going to be smart enough to search through. Remember, doing this contains filter query, it'll search through and it'll give you a bunch of session names. And that's why this apply to each, which happens automatically, is really helpful over here. So what I can do is I'm going to change that. I just hit enter over there, because remember, I still have to put in the type, whether this is a workshop or it is a breakout session. Let me get that in over here. Type, again, hit enter, and then the speaker name. And there it is, speaker name. And then after that, we're going to go outside the apply to each. Don't do it inside, outside. And over here, just type in again Power Virtual Agents, or just Power Virtual Agents, and get this one, the return values, okay? And the return value, I'm going to call that as session return, RET. And all I'm going to get from here is this initialize variable one. That's it, this one right here. So I can do that. And right now there should only be one, so that's the sessions variable. So I put that in. Oh, you know what? I missed a step. One of the things that it doesn't like is we want to go ahead and take this variable and dump it into a compose statement. That is a very important one. So I'm going to do that. Compose, get that into compose, just a simple compose. And in compose, we basically drop that session variable. So that works out well. And then here, you go ahead and pick in that compose outputs. All right? Just do a flow check. No errors, no warnings. We're good. Save it. There's no testing we can do right now because that's the only way this is going to be there. So, done that. In fact, the process for the speaker name is almost the same, but just so that you see a repetition, I'm going to make another one, another flow. But what happens is, let me show you something. So you get done over here, click OK. In the solutions, now when I go to event, you will see that the Power Automate flow that we created shows up over here in your solution, because that's important. We need that over here, right? So let's go ahead and finish off the other one too. We did the one for the session name. Let's go and do one for the speaker name as well. All right. Flow. I'm gonna call that the same thing. Power. Just make sure I've done session name. Yep. So Power Virtual Agent speaker name. There's already Power Virtual Agents over here. Calls a flow. We'll do that as a speaker. And remember, over here I had done the session one. I'll open that up so you can see that. I had done the session requested or rec. And over here I'm going to do the speaker requested the rec, right? From here, again, same process. I'm going to go ahead to the common data service. I'm going to list the records. It's coming from the same entity area, environment area. So I'm just doing that as current. And over here, make sure, I think it was just if sessions or events. What did I search for? Let's see. It was sessions. Sessions. We're going to do another OData filter over here. So this one's OData filter is again same. The name I'm going to get is contains. I got to get that the name of the speaker column. So it's speaker. But I'm going to grab this, highlighted it, did a Control C, coming back to my, nope, it's this one here. Type that in. I did a Control V to paste it in, comma, single quotes, going ahead and getting that, single quotes, closing it, save. Now this, every once in a while I do see an error that shows up over here. I'm not going to talk about it because it may not happen, but if it does, I know exactly where that error is and I'll show you that. So now I come back over here, go ahead and grab that variable. This is all kind of making sense because we just did this a few minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and initialize a variable. It's going to be a string variable, and I'm going to call this one as speaker variable. Keep that as it is. Come over here. I'm going to again go to variable. In the variable, I'm going to now append to the string variable, and I start typing that in over here. Session, because this part of it is the exact same. Session type speaker. So come over here, get the session. This shows up exactly as we need. Leave it as it is. Type, and it's the session type, which was the type over here. Is that correct? Yep, it was type and speaker. Save. Oh, it's something. Okay, that's fine. We'll pick that away here, obviously. Next, I'm going to go ahead and create a compose. Compose. In the compose, I'm going to drop that, and then we're going to return this back again. Let's just call that as power virtual agents. Power virtual agents will return it. In my case, I'm going to call that as speaker. That's what it is, speaker 1. Speaker RET for return, and in here we're going to drop that one. Okay, both the flows. This is kind of the first version of the flow. I'm going to come back and add some enhancements to it later, but this is like the main chunk of it. Both, we did that for the speaker one, we went ahead and did that for the session one as well. So let's go back into our virtual agents, and we'll continue working over there. So this is the place where we stopped last time. Okay, so we start by saying that the two questions are asked. We got, the question for the speaker name, we got the question for the session name, and over here now we're going to start calling some actions. I'm going to call an action, and as you already guessed, that action is the two flows we got. So that's why it's easier that you go ahead and make all these names the same, flow names over here, the variable names that we can relate it all. So the first one is for give me the speaker's first name, so it's going to be Power Virtual Agent speaker name. Okay, that's the one that I'm doing over here. And then in the speaker, that's the one we did over here. It's the speaker variable. See, that's why I kind of give those variable names all something that makes sense. Also, if you notice, it's pretty slick because it picked up that variable, the return variable from Power Automate's flow, and it dropped it over here. See, that's pretty neat because it's showing that it's taking care of all of that over there. All right, and so we went ahead and returned that value, and after that I'm just going to put in a message over here, a message, and it says in the message our bot is telling us here's what I found. Do that, and the message is going to be from the speaker returned. That's what it is. And let me do that save over here. Let's do the exact same for the session as well. So I'm going to come back over here, I'm going to call an action, and this action now is going to be for the session name. Come in here, it's going to be the session variable. Do that, drop in a message, show message. Same thing, here's what I found. And over here I'm going to put in the session variable, no, actually the session returned. And that should actually be pretty good over here. What I want to do is actually take it to the next level. What I'm going to say is that once this all finishes over here, I'm going to ask the the user using the bot. The bot's going to ask is that, hey, do you have another question? Because most of the times they might be looking for a few speakers or a few sessions. So the bot needs to give the end user that opportunity to say, hey, are we done, or do you have another question? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to ask another question. And you can randomly pick which one, because I'm actually going to just connect the two. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to ask a question. And the question is, have another question. I'm going to make that as a multiple choice. And well, also never forget our variable. The variable in this case, I'm going to say, session continued. Just going to say something like that. Choices. By default, the first one I'll put in is yes. Put the next one as no. That is good. So what I'm doing now is from here, I'm going to take that, just click on it. Key thing, just click on it. Then you drag that and you connect it over here. Now, if you remember the previous video, I kind of said that you need to at least add, a message over there. From that time, I actually learned that you don't have to do that anymore. Because if you do, then that message from there just swings up to the top over there. You don't have to do that anymore. You just go ahead and click on something, make sure that that plus changes into the circle, and then you can drag that over there, and it works really well. Okay, so gone ahead and did that, and over here I am going to say if it is yes, then you go back and drag this back to, because if they have another question, I'm going to come over here and say pick one if it's for a speaker or a session. Now do you understand why I did it this way? Because like I mentioned before, if you remember, I could have actually put this entire text as a question, but I know that I'm going to be pulling this information from the down to the bottom, so I intentionally put half of the question in that message, and then over here I went ahead and just put in that question. Now this is the part where it gets things a little interesting, and you kind of have to play with it a few times, because what I want to do is, if it is yes, then I'm going to take this and connect it up there. If it is no, then I can just go ahead and end the conversation. I'll end it with a survey. But here is where things get a little interesting. So I'm going to do that. And sometimes you try it. You click on that over here. See, that it becomes a little interesting. So over here, you can leave that as it is. And then you can come back over here right up to the top. Select that, and it works. So you did that over here. And then make sure that it connected to the correct one. See, that's why the clicking is very important. When I clicked over here, the next thing you gotta click is where that loop is gonna start. You can't go and click somewhere else. I'm gonna give a little tidbit over here too, is sometimes if that doesn't work, go ahead and drop that message box over there. Sometimes that really helps you, because then you know that there's a message box, which means when I click over here, that's the one that's last selected. Key thing is takeaway is that you gotta remember, if you've clicked on that, that's the beginning of the loop. The next place you click it has to be the next place is that where the loop ends. You can't go and click anywhere else, because if you do, that a whole loop and your logic is just going to be thrown off, right? So kind of keep that in mind over there. So we've pretty much finished on the first side of this. Let me just double check. Everything looks good. Okay, so let's now do some testing. So I'm going to come over to the chat bar over here, and I'm going to straight away jump into the testing session of this side over here. So I'm going to ask, say interested in some session information. Now we didn't actually type this as a phrase. All I did was interested in sessions, but let's see how well this thing picks it up. Okay. Smart enough, really well, right? It went ahead and picked up everything. So not only did it realize that it's just a trigger one, but it also realized that, hey, he's already asking for a session, which means I'm going to skip this altogether and come straight jumping over here. That bot system is really smart. That's what I love about that bot system over here. All right, so it jumped in straight to this section over there. So it says, yeah, I am interested in some sessions. You know what, for the sake of this one, I need to come over here and actually see what are those sessions informations I put in. All right, so I came in, let me get those session names. Data, and let's do a little quick search. I said something about sessions. Let's start something easy. I'm just going to say CDS. Now let's type in CDS. Now it's sending a flow. It's actually communicating with flow. Now this is an error that I have also been getting. You may also get it, and I know exactly where the problem is. So this is to do with the session one. So let's go back to the session place here. We will see that it has failed. I'm going to come back to the edit, and in the edit, here's where it fails. It's in the filter one. See, if you remember, we did type in that single comma, a single quote, and then the closing it. But for some reason, after I save it, it goes away. So I'm gonna do that over here. Come back over here, click on that single quotes, and save that again. Okay. And since we are doing it for the session name, let's go ahead and do that for the speaker one as well. Because watch, when I come back over here, go ahead and edit it. Filter. See, it disappeared over here as well. Easy fix, nothing to be too concerned about. Okay, so let's come back over here. I'm gonna just reset that. We'll start all over again. And I'm gonna start with, let's have a nice conversation. So, hi there. Yeah, human agent. Okay, so how can I help today? Let's just type in interested in sessions. And it's here. Hi there. Looks like you need some assistance to pick up, just the way that we did it over here. Pick one. So I'm gonna do sessions. Did sessions. Any sessions in particular you're interested in? What I should have done is also type in the text is that, hey, any sessions you're particularly interested in, type it in, something like that, which makes it more easy for the user to understand. So kind of keep that in mind as well. So I did that. CDS. And it says, here's what I found. Went ahead and found one session, the session name, and it typed in comment, but we can fix that piece over here. But it told me what the session name was, the name, and then also told me what who the speaker was over here. So I said, do you have another question? It says, yes, I'm going to do that. And now let's go ahead. It jumps me straight up. I'm going to go now to the speaker name. And I want to show you this one little trick, because there's going to be a place where there's multiple information coming in, and how that information comes in and how the format looks over here is also important. So what I'll do is I'll try to pick a speaker where there's multiple names over here. And we can go all fields, and let's intentionally do that. So we've got in the speakers, Daniel. Yep, I'm speaking a few times, so I'm going to put my name over here. Can you give me the speaker's name? I'll just type in Daniel. So it's going ahead and searching, and it's pulling in all the information. Now see how it comes in, all this information over here, session, speaker, and everything. It's kind of a little messy. So I'm going to go on the flow side, and I'm going to do some cleaning up over there. All right. So let's come back over here, speaker name. Let's go back in, and this fix is so simple. It's actually inside there, apply to each string. We need to see why it is doing that. So the type, we can actually change that to, let's change the type. Let's put in room. I think room was a much more nicer. Room's more nice. Now watch this. I'm going to come in, and I'm right on the top. I've taken my cursor before session, and I'm all hitting is enter. Same thing here. I come in to the speaker right to the end, and I hit enter. That two gaps that you put, one gap on the top and one gap on the bottom, is going to make that data present so much more nice and cleaner. Watch what I'm doing over here. Okay, let me do the same thing even on the session side. Come over here on the sessions, just making sure everything is good. Take out the type, and we'll put in room. And come back here, home, put that little space over there, space, save it. And go outside, save, go outside. Now, let's try to do the same thing. So I'm in fact reset that, and I'm going to do the same thing with the speaker name. Put my speaker name over here, and now you'll see how that happens. All right, so I'm going to do hi there. Say hi. Session. Speaker information. Let's put speaker. Speaker info, please. So, yep, need some assistance. Can you give me the speaker's first and last name? Let's try my last name, see what happens. Christian. Searching, the flow is running, and here Now, I know that the session name came back a little weird, the room name cleaned up over there nicely, but you see how the format changed? It looks a lot more nicer right now because you see it's breaking it down into nice chunks, and that chunks breaking down is all because of that little space you put on the top and then the little space you put on the bottom, and it works. It works really well over here, all right? Now, something is up on the session name over there. Oh, I know what's up over there. It was, I think, because we didn't actually put in the name properly. We'll try that one last time. If it works, great. Otherwise, it's just a minor, hiccup over there. So it's not the session, but it was actually the name. Save. And I'm sure when you saw me build this, you probably figured this out right from the beginning. Says, Daniel, that's going to be a problem. And you're right, it was a problem. I just didn't realize it ahead. But then this is how we come and troubleshoot. So if you figured this out right from the get-go, good job, which means you already are familiar with flows. Okay. Remember that gap on the top and the gap on the bottom. Perfect ones over here. I'm going to say, have another question? Yes. I'm going to go back to the session one, and I'll that's, I shouldn't have done with the speaker one, but let's do a test on the session one as well, since we're here testing it. Let's randomly pick something. What we got? Let's do step by step. Let's do this step by step. Okay, I'm not even putting the dash, I'm just putting step by step. Let's see if the bot's smart enough to pick that up. Here's what I found, and it didn't find something else over there. I'll show you the fix for that. Okay, here, speaker, Daniel. All right, here, nice and clean. Session, give me the session. Anything that had to do with Daniel Christian, it went and pulled that up and it put over here. Flow on the back end, the Power Automate's flow on the back end did all of this. This is pretty sweet. I really like the way this thing worked over here, okay? Because it works based, again, when I was doing a search for the speaker, it pulled that up. When I did a search for the session title, it went and pulled that up over here. All right, so at this point, if this is already too much information for you, this would be a good place for you to stop. But if you're interested, as a little bit more that I want to show over here, I'm going to take that Power Automate to the next level. And so let's continue with that. Okay, what I'm going to do is, first things first, is I'm going to come back to our Power, the CDS over there. I'm going to intentionally change the date. So let me come over here. I'm going to go into that Edit in Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, we actually already have that, but I'll open that up. Spreadsheet, enable editing, and I'm going to change that date because I'm going to do two more things. I'm going to add a filter so that it doesn't pull the past dates. The bot is smart enough, should be smart enough to say, I don't care about the past dates, I just care about the ones which are now or moving forward. So I'm going to make a little change over here, right? See this one, I'm going to change that to February 29th. I'm going to do that to a few of these. Everything which was here, I'm going to change that. So Power Virtual Agent, I'll change a few of them because let's just remember that, okay? To 29th. Let's even change this one to 29th. And see, it actually gives me the option to do that too. Publish. Save it, but it didn't allow me to save that. Let me close that again. Let me edit in Excel. Open that up. For some reason it didn't let me do that, so let me just try that one more time. Enable editing. Did that. What I'll do is on the connector side, I'll actually use that calendar widget that showed up over here. So I'm going to come back, going to go to there, going to go to February. I'm going to pick on that 29th. Same thing here, February 29th, February 29th, publish it. Yep, seems to be working. We got that over here. If I just refresh the data, the dates changed over there. Perfect. All right. So now we've got some technically some events which have already been finished in the past. So now let's go ahead and make our flow even a little bit more smarter. So come over here, and for the speaker one, we're on the speaker one right now. So I got to add another condition in my query over there, and this is going to be that condition, because right now the only condition we have on the speaker name is that, hey, go ahead and just get me a speaker name that matches that. But in addition, I'm going to do and the date and time needs to be greater than today or now. So I come back to the date and time, which was this one over here, date. So let me get sure I get the correct field. The field name is this one. Come here, and this, just paste that in, and GT for greater than, GE for greater than, and then you go get the expression UTC now. Get it? Close it. Okay. So this is going to be smart enough. Now it will go ahead and actually only pull the future ones. It's not going to go ahead and pull anything which is in the past, because when the chatbot's communicating with you, the end user only wants to know which are still available. They don't want to know the ones in the past. So that filtering really helps over there. The other thing I want to do is I want to actually go ahead and now even see if somebody is intentionally searching for something which is in the past. There's no more speakers, no more sessions available for that speakers, because they were all done in the past. So how does the bot tell you that? It says, hey, maybe all the sessions are come over there. How does the bot communicate that with you? Because all the filtering is done. Everything is done over here. We need a way for that bot to communicate with you. Now, I tried doing that on the PVA side, the Power Virtual Agent side, and it was a little bit more confusing over there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just, it was best if you do it on the Power Virtual Agent, on the flow side, which is the Power Automate side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually come in and I'm going to put in a condition right after this apply to each. Okay, I'm going to put the condition, and I'm going to say, make sure I've got everything correct. Yeah. Right after here, I'm going to drop add an action, and that action is basically going to be a condition. And the condition is going to be if the speaker variable that I'm going to leave it equal to, if the speaker is blank, then what I want you to do is I want to create, if it is blank, then let's create a compose, and I'm going to call that as a empty compose, so you know that. Empty compose. And in that compose, I'm going to literally type in just empty, which basically says that, hey, the data that's coming in is blank. There's nothing in here. So when I send this back to Power Virtual Agents, Power Virtual Agent will see that there is no data. There's no sessions left by the speaker, or everything's done, or or sessions with this title. So it's going to send back empty over there, which is great, because then in Power Automate we can use that empty and do something with it. So I'm going to do that, and then finally in this side here, you go ahead and drop both of them. So I'm going to do, now you should see both, the empty one as well. This one was the original one that we added over here, but in this section over there, we're going to go ahead and put the empty one as well. It's the same thing. Let's go ahead and do that on the session name side. Can I do it once again so you'll understand what's going on? We're going to, right after this, do another condition. We're going to drop a condition. And the condition basically says that if the session also is empty, if it is empty, then I'm going to drop here a compose. Same thing. It'll all make sense once we get it actually done over here. I know the flow side is getting, fitting with somebody who's new, this might get a little bit confusing, but you'll understand that we're just all the magic has to happen on the flow side over here, on the Power Automate. So did that, and now we're done on the Power Automate's flow over here. We're done. All the remaining work will be done only on the Power Virtual Agent side. So I'm going to reset that. And here we're going to do a little bit more work, right? So we're going to do it both on the speaker side, and we're going to do it on the session side as well. So first things first is right after here, what I want to do is I'm actually going to put in a little condition, because what I've gone over here and done is after the Power Virtual Agent has, gone ahead and say, hey, here's what I found. I'm going to put in a condition. All right, so there's a condition here. It's not that. Undo. Reset that. I want you to discard any change. See, that's what happened when I clicked on it. It's going ahead and doing something magic over here. So I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Reset that. And right now there is no way for me to do any of this, so I can just click on something, undo it. But what I want to do is I want to put in a condition. So right after this thing goes over here, I'm going to make some change. So here, right after this, I'm going to put in a condition, and I'm going to say add a condition. And the condition is going to be whatever is the speaker is returning. The speaker is returning if it is empty. Remember how I went ahead and got that empty from there? If it is empty, then go ahead and drop a text. I mean, just a message. And a message is basically going to be something very simple. It's going to be, it's possible the speaker has no more sessions left to deliver. Just to be sure, let's try this again. So remember, let's just pause for a second and see what we did over here. We went ahead and put that empty over there, because the empty, if there is no session information for that speaker or that session, then Flow is going to return that empty back over there. That little trick that we just added over there. If it is empty, which means that either their speaker is done with all the sessions, or there literally was no session with that search that we put in over there. But this is a bot. It's a very personal bot with you. So that's why we still want to go ahead and put this message that it's possible that the speaker has no more sessions left to deliver. But what I need to do is I need to be able to take this and return it back all the way right up over here. So I'm going to take this back and start again at the question, just asking the question. Right here is where you want to do it. Now this is where it can get a little tricky, so I'm going to try to make sure we do it correctly. So do that, and click on, see, it took it from here. So what I should have done first was come actually over here, and did it connect? Yep, it took it straight from here and went and connected straight over there. So you see what I did? I wanted to make sure that we'd give this at least one more shot. One more shot means that it says, which is, that it's possible that I put in the speaker's name wrong or something. So from here, I'm going to loop it back right up over there and giving the user the option to go ahead and put that speaker name one more time. So we took care of the speaker side. We got to do the exact same thing for putting in the session name as well. So in the session name now, I'm going to do the exact same way, which is come right after the question over here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to add here, and I'm going to add a condition, and in the condition I'm going to this is already connected loop over, so that's great. But here the session return, I'm going to type that in as empty, because if empty comes in, make sure it's there. Go ahead and go put a message. In fact, the message can be almost the same, saying it's possible no more sessions remain on this topic. Just to be sure, let's try this again. You just save that. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and then we drop see, something happened over here, so I'm gonna undo that, because I want to take it from here. Let me undo that again, and we're gonna actually drop in right there. So let's see, did that work? Sometimes it makes it a little bit more confusing. Nope, it did not. So I'm gonna undo that. Also, when you work on something like that, it's best that you hide that bot system over here. All right, so I want it to kind of come from right here, from this one, and take it all the way up over here. Looks like it took it. Is it good? Yep, it did. Now you gotta kind of pay close attention to how it is, because I know this thing went and slide down, so it can be a little bit more confusing. But all in all, this is really good. Okay, this is good. I know this was a lot more information. In fact, this entire video has been over 1 hour, so that's why I put it in chunks over there. But this is kind of that added functionality now that the bot is smart enough not to search for anything that is for the past events. That's why we went ahead and added that little extra condition over there. And if it cannot find anything which is for the old ones, it'll come back and even make the bot a little bit more smarter. So let's do the testing, because that will make more sense. So I'll come back to our data over here, and I want to find some good data for testing. First thing is anything which was in the past, it should not give us any of those results. The filter should not pick any of them up. So I'm gonna when I do a search for Power Virtual Agents, it should take care of both things. It should not be able to find it because it's already in the past, and it should actually even come back and say, it's possible that the session is already over. Let's go and try that search again. So let's do that test. And this is a session name. So I'm going to come back right here to test our bot, and I'm going to do with hi. This is going to be like the final big search that we're doing, all right, just to make sure everything is good. How can I do? So I'm going to type in session. Anything in particular? Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to make sure that I actually get the correct session name, Power Virtual Agent. So I'm going to say Power Virtual Agent. It's doing a search. It's running it through the flow, and it comes back over here. And it did say that here's what I found, Power Virtual Agent. Do you have another question? Now, what happened was, let's take a look. Maybe the date didn't work or something like that. So let's keep testing it. We'll see what happens. Power Virtual Agent, it was in the past. So let's actually take a look at the flow. Okay. It's quite possible that the date filtering did not work out very well. Figure it out. List of records, and the records it should come back with Power Virtual Agent. So it did go ahead and pull that one. The filtering did not work well. So let's take a look at what happened in the filter. Aha, see, it went ahead and wiped that off. I mean, the filtering that I put over there, it went ahead and wiped it off. The same problem we had with that single quotes, and it probably took care of that. Or I may not have just put it in for that one. So let me go ahead and put in the and this is for the session name. So let me go to the session name. In the session name we have the date. It's possible that I missed it. So let me go and come back into a Power Automate, and CR is greater than UTC now. Let me just make sure that on the speaker name side, that filter remains. It's there over here. So probably it's possible I just completely skipped it over here because we were covering so much. Greater than UTC now. All right, so what we can do is let's try to recreate that same thing. It says have another question. Let's do yes. Hopefully this time it'll still work. Pick one. I'm going to go with the session name. And you notice that when I'm typing it in, I'm putting it all lowercase over here. This is Power Virtual Agent. This time, let's see what happens. See that? It says, it's possible no more sessions remain on this topic. Just to be sure, let's type again. Went up to the loop over there. Did that make sense to you? Because what happened is, this session over there, it is now in the past. See, we've changed the date for that session to something in the past. The flow went ahead and filtered that in because it's only looking for everything which is UTC now and forward over there. But in the Power Automate, we went ahead and put in that condition that if for some reason Flow sends that empty back, empty means it couldn't find anything, then go ahead and put in that little text saying that it couldn't find over there, making that bot a little bit more user friendly, a little bit more humanish, if I can say that, like, if that's such a word. And it really helps over there. And all of this could be done using the magic of the Power Automate, and then also using the Power Virtual Agent over there. So just to do as a quick recap, what we did today was we first went ahead and used an example of sessions in an event. We dumped all of that into CDS first, and I showed you a quick way to do that in bulk. We went ahead and created an entity over there, call it events, using an Excel spreadsheet type of thing, put all that information over there. Then after that, we went and at least started building the bot a little bit. The bot which goes ahead and at least has all these great triggers, puts in a little message over there. Remember how I kind of taught you that little trick, is that in the message, put in like half the question over there, and then the remaining half would actually be a question, because keeping in mind, we're going to do this looping connection over here. From there, we did the first question, and from the questions were two types, speaker and session. The speaker one was going ahead and pulling information from the Power Virtual Agents, from the Power Automate over there. So we created two Power Automates, one to go ahead and pull the speaker name, the other one to go ahead and put the session name over there. And for each of them, initially it just pulled the information and came back. It was all great. Later on, we went and did two more enhancements. We first added a filter to just pull the information for future events. It would not pull anything in the back. Future events was using that UTC now for both the speaker and the session. But the other thing we also did was we did it as a test. We went ahead and changed the speaker name over there, we were able to test it. But the final thing is that if it just could not find anything, then the return value from the Flow or the Power Automate was just the text empty. And in Power Virtual Agent, the moment it sees empty, then in its condition, it goes ahead and puts this message to make it a little bit more, user friendly over there. And then it loops it back over there just to make sure it all works. So I know we did a lot today. We went ahead and did a lot of looping. We went ahead and did a lot of Power Automate fun stuff over there, and going ahead and pulling all the information over here. But this truly is like an advanced. It shows the power of this combination. The Power Virtual Agents by itself is fantastic. In the last video, we did the whole thing over there. It worked out so well. But now, when I was able to go ahead and loop in Power Automate and build a flow with that, you could really see how we took this to the whole next level over there. So hopefully this was helpful. Play around with it. If this video was too big, just do it in chunks. The first one was just to go ahead and leverage the data using Flow from CDS. And then after that, you can go ahead and put in that extra loop thing, which I showed you, the second part of it. So hopefully this was helpful. And as always, keep using the Power Platform.